The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Here we go, Talkin' Buds Leaf Show, episode 256. So we decided to not do a weekday episode this week. We were like, you know what? Let's let it play out. Let's watch. They had a busy week of games. Let's let it play out. Let's see what happens. And the good part about doing that is we're back here on our usual Sunday morning, and we've got a lot to talk about. We have wins over the Blackhawks and Predators, and then we have consecutive back-to-back losses against the Washington Capitals and Kyle Dubas's Pittsburgh Penguins. Auston Matthews back in all these games. You called it. You said the entire time, you're like, as soon as he comes back, it's only a matter of time before they put him with Mitch Marner. And they go out against the Nashville Predators. Berube puts them together. Matthews scores 2, and wouldn't you know it, they're back together. And then they start 2 games on the same line and 2 back-to-back L's.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's because after those 2 games where they beat the 2 worst teams in the National Hockey League and they got back together on the line and Matthews scores 2 goals, if we would have hopped on here, we would have been like, our takes would have been, I don't know, like, okay, maybe
different.
Put them back together. They look good. But then you wait the 2 games, and even though they contribute offensively, look at the facts, they're 0-2 on the same line. And so it's like, and Auston Matthews coming back into the lineup, all of a sudden the way they were playing when they were winning 9 of 10 isn't kind of how they're looking right now with him back in the lineup. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's his fault, but it's the facts.
Can I just say something off the top? A lot of comments on our episode last week just sort of accusing us of being negative. You guys are negative. Your vibes are off, not digging it. And to me, that has everything to do with the fact that this market and this fan base has a really hard time when you lobby any criticism at Auston Matthews. And listen, you and I are very open. I've said it a million times. The guy's the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf of all time. The franchise is built around him. I was all for making him the captain. I was all for giving him the keys. I've said when it comes to Marner contract negotiations that you have an internal structure and Marner can't make more than Matthews because then it just screws the whole thing up. But listen, at the end of the day, I know he's been hurt. But even prior to the injury, he was not playing that well. And if you're going to make the money that he's making, you can't be mid. You can't. You just can't.
Yeah.
And again, someone's going to come at me and be like, oh, he has an injury. He's coming back from an injury. It's like Connor McDavid was out with an injury, comes right back in and dominates. And you can say Matthews and McDavid don't belong in the same sentence together. Yes, they do. They're in the same sentence when it comes to how much money they make. They're in the same sentence in terms of how their franchises are built around them. A lot of people consider them in the top 5 best players in the National Hockey League. It's like, that's the sentence that Auston Matthews is in. That is the category he is in. So when you're not going to impact the game as much as he should be impacting the game, I don't think it's unfair to call that out and point that out and say this guy needs to be a little bit more dominant, or this Leaf team, it's going to impact this Leaf team. And it has.
Yeah, he's the highest paid player in the NHL this season. And I'm not going to apologize for wanting the most out of the highest paid player in the NHL. So, like, that's going to be, I think nitpicking is valid. If you're going to be the big dog in the league, then, I don't know, I expect you to be the big dog every single night. And, I mean, he's not having an awful season. I know he's hurt, but I'd say all in all, for what you expect for one of the best players in the NHL, some people consider him top 3 player in the NHL. I honestly expect just a little bit more. I do. I really do. I just think he isn't skating well. I think he looks, me and you were texting back and forth. I think he looks a little out of shape. It's just something,
he definitely
looks
looks
a
like
little bit
he's
off. And I understand that he's a great defensive hockey player. But when you pay someone $13.25 a year, I expect a little bit more than just being good defensively. So I think that's where like we're criticizing him, but when you're watching him, you just expect a little bit more from him. That's all.
The thing with Marner, I can't believe we're talking about this again. We talked about this so much, but it's like Berube puts them together against the Predators, and it clicks, and it looks great. And everyone changes their opinion and changes the narrative of like, well, they belong together. They, like, you know what? That was really dumb that they were split up in the first place when they can make magic happen like that. And it's like, yes, they can. When it clicks, it looks incredible. And they should be on the ice together here and there. But I do think it's not black and white. It's very gray. Sometimes it clicks, it looks really good, and other times I think Marner defers to Matthews too much. And I think it impacts how effective Mitch Marner is when he's stapled to Auston Matthews.
And I think it just like isolates. Like I think Matthew Nyes has done obviously a very good job of like filling in that spot. He's double digit in goals, but I think throughout the years when they play together, it just almost like really isolates the lineup into like, I don't know. It's like they're the duo, and then it just isolates the other winger on that line, and it's just like nobody could play with these guys. I don't know. It's just like it completely changes the conversation of their whole lineup when they're together. It's like when they're not together, everybody's just kind of filling in on a line, doing their job, and then when you put them together, it's just, I don't know. I think it just changes the conversation around the entire lineup, and it just changes the whole dynamic. And yeah, and maybe on the ice, Marner kind of defers more, or they just play a little bit different. But it just seems like when they get put together, it just, I don't know. The vibe changes with them.
They're going to get Max Domi back in a few days here, and I would really like to see Max Domi on the wing with Auston Matthews. I think that is your solution. Again, I'm learning with some of the comments that you have to be explicitly clear because people hear what they want to hear. I am not saying that Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner should never be on the ice together ever again. What I'm saying is they do not need to be stapled together at all times. And it's on Berube and the coaching staff to find situations that make sense to put them out there together. But when it comes to building a lineup and on a shift-to-shift basis, put Max Domi there. Mitch Marner was fantastic with John Tavares. I actually don't mind Matt Nyes on that line either. Like if you wanted to go Pacioretty, Matthews, Domi, I'm okay with that. And then Nyes, Tavares, Marner, and then throw Willie down on the third line, see what he can do with Bobby McMahon and Fraser Minton. I'm okay with that. Like they've got some options here when everyone's healthy. And it just stop going back to the well. Like just stop. Yes, it looks great. It looks great against the Nashville Predators, 100%. But the team is better. The team is more spread out. The depth is better utilized when those two are not on the same line every single shift. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think that's the point you're trying to make here. It's like I think in an 82 game season with 4 lines, and especially in your top 6, different things are going to be clicking on different nights. Like not everyone has to be glued together the entire lineup. Some nights Marner and Matthews are going to be best suited to play each other. Some nights they're not. But I think just the point you're making is you think the best version of this hockey team is when they're not together. So I don't think that's being negative at all. I think there's a lot of evidence to back that up. And we're not talking, you can't just look at the individual stats. Like I understand that Marner is assisted on so many Auston Matthews goals, but if you look at the actual record of the teams winning, then and look how it elevates other players in the lineup, then exactly. I don't think you're wrong at all.
We were chatting before we jumped on here, and you were saying you went back and looked at all their records at this point in the season from the previous years. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching. It's just I think this year's tough so far to judge in a way because everyone has their own opinion. You have, like, for example, you who just loves Craig Berube and you love the new Berube style. And the reason why I went back and looked at those records because they're 16-9-2. Last year they were 15-6-6. The year before they were 16-5-6. And then the year before that they were 18-7-2. So all similar records. And you're in the camp of you love Berube, you love the style of hockey, you notice a difference. But then there's the people on the other side being like, you need to chill. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. We still need to see what's happening in April. And I think when they lose back-to-back games in regulation, one to a really good team, one to a team that I don't think is a playoff team,
No.
you sit back and you really try to analyze the game and be like, what did I see negatively tonight? And then you throw it into the bigger picture of the season and you're trying to find negatives in the losses. And it's tough because like they're having a good, like sometimes, I don't know, like I'm watching those two games, like they just got outworked by the Washington Capitals. The Washington Capitals played a better Craig Berube style than the Leafs did on that particular night.
So if I can just interject, because I wanted to talk about the Capital game. So when we talk about me and how I'm such a supporter of Berube, the Washington game is a perfect sort of example of that, because the Washington Capitals executed the anti-Leaf game plan to a T. Keep everything to the outside, clog up the middle of the ice, don't let them have any quality scoring chances. And that's been the case for years. But the difference this year, at least what I see and what I feel watching Craig Berube, is he knows that like he's got to give them the juice he's got to push them to be able to overcome that. And games that they've played well and beaten good teams this year, they have overcome that because they're motivated, they're playing hard, they're bought in, attention to detail, all things that I don't think Sheldon Keefe was as much of a stickler about that as much as Craig Berube is. So the Caps, that game, I'm watching that game. I don't think the Leafs played too bad in that game. I thought the Caps just executed their game plan very well, and the Leafs just didn't have enough juice to overcome it. And it was as simple as that.
And they were limited in shots, but also if you look back at that game, William Nylander had 2 breakaways. Like and there was 2 or 3 times in front of the net on a power play where it was scrambling in front of Lindgren, and they could have tapped it home.
The 24-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win.
And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And then you look at the Pittsburgh game, and I'm watching it, and I'm trying to find certain negatives about back-to-back regulation losses. And I'm just watching it, and I just didn't think they actually played that bad of a hockey game. I thought there was a couple like lucky bounces on the Penguins' behalf, and I'm on this, and then I'm scrolling through Twitter this morning, seeing what other people are saying, and I see the depth scoring problem again. I see people blaming Max Pacioretty for taking 2 penalties because he was being like too aggressive. And
No. I'm sorry. No. Enough. This is the way the team's always been. The big guys drive the bus. Yes, it's great when you have depth scoring. It's vital. They're going to need it. But at the end of the day, the recipe, look at they just went on this epic run through November. Go back and look at all those games. Who's scoring the fucking goals? Yeah. Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares. That's who's scoring the goals. That's what this team is. Like, enough. It's just nitpicking.
Well, Rob, look at their third line last night. Minton, Nylander, and Holmberg. Like,
Alex Nylander, not William.
Yeah,
Alex.
Alex Nylander.
Who is not, God bless him, he's not an NHL hockey player.
And in the grand scheme of things, how much offense are you expecting from your fourth line too?
No.
Especially when Ryan Reeves is on the ice, which, by the way, him being on the ice on a nightly basis is starting to be
It's got to stop.
a questionable decision at this point.
It has to stop. Not to like go off on a side here, but like I love Revo, you love Revo, we love what he represents. We were so stoked when they got him. There's definitely nights with certain guys that he needs to be in the lineup, but it should not be every night. O-Dog talks about this all the time on Overdrive about how that fourth line just goes out there and kind of skates around. And it's like, Ryan Reeves, if you are not going to be dropping the mitts, or if there is no threat of you dropping the mitts, Pittsburgh Penguins, you should not be in the lineup. He should not be in the lineup. Full stop.
Yeah.
Like to pull Grabankin out of the lineup and keep Ryan Reeves in there against the Pittsburgh Penguins, who there's no one on the Pittsburgh Penguins that is a threat to fight. No one. It's a Kyle Dubas hockey team, for Christ's sakes. So, like, honestly, he shouldn't be out there. And it's getting, I will nitpick Berube on that. Like, enough with Ryan Reeves every night. He doesn't do he's there for one reason and one reason only. And if there's no threat of it, he should be up in the press box. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's being a bit of a problem. But going back to that original point of just like I'm on Twitter looking for people nitpicking things, depth scoring, whatever. I think when I bring up like their record this season compared to the records the other season, and we're talking about Matthews and Marner together, people are talking about depth scoring and roughing penalties from Max Pacioretty. I think so far, if you look at all that in totality, this whole season is just a massive nitpick because they're in the same position they've been in for the past. But it's even longer than 4 seasons. Like ever since this era started, they're in the same position they're in points wise. And I think they're overall playing really good hockey. So it's just like,
yes.
We can come on here and we can just talk about the best version of their lineup and we can just come up with different things. But overall, I just think they're playing like pretty good hockey. Like, they're a pretty good hockey team.
I'm not coming away from the back-to-back losses all worried or anything. And you're talking about the similarities in the records. There's things this year that are different about it that are exciting. The goaltending duo is fantastic. The defensive numbers. What was Mike Sullivan's quote?
Oh yeah, I have it right here. And then now it's gone. Their defensive metrics are better than their offensive ones. When's the last time you heard that from a opposing head coach about the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Exactly. So it's like there's lots of encouraging and positive signs. Like, so I'm with you. Like, by no means is this like, is it panic time because they lost a couple of games here? I just think we do this podcast by feel, and we kind of come on here and we hit record and we just kind of say what we feel. And my main thing I'm feeling today is I'm just really fucking tired of this Matthews and Marner nonsense. Like, it's just like, can we stop coddling these two, stop babying these two? You're big boys, you're paid lots of money. Mitch Marner is going to get paid a ton of money. Mitch Marner's been fantastic. This is not a criticism of Mitch Marner, but it's like, enough. Matthews and Marner have to play together. No.
Surprised Austin wouldn't be involved in Mitch's negotiation.
Oh my God.
He might as well become his new agent.
He's help. Jesus. Yeah. Like, honest to God, man. Like, any of the Marner naysayers, and like, listen, like I said, I'm still in the camp of like, let's see what happens in the playoffs. But like, one thing we've learned early in this season, Auston Matthews is not the same hockey player if he doesn't have his wingman. He is not the same guy. And if you're Mitch Marner's camp, that is number one on your list. You're sitting down in the boardroom across from Brad Treliving and you're firing up whatever presentation you have, and it's just a picture of Auston Matthews, and you go, this is your golden boy. This is the guy that you built your franchise around. He's your captain. You've decided that he's at the top of your internal salary structure, and he is nowhere close to the same player unless I am on his wing. At least that's what we've seen early to start this season, which is the Marner negotiating season. So,
yeah, he's done him a favor all year with him being out and him dominating as much as he's dominating, and now he comes back in, and it seems like he he's like not having fun unless his buddy's on his line. Like it's kind of weird. Yeah,
I
it's
don't
kind of
love
strange,
the vibe, man. I don't love the vibe at all. Like I'm sorry. People, if you want to get mad and say that we're negative and criticizing him, then fine, go ahead. I honestly don't care. It's just I don't love the vibe at all. Like you're right, he seemed like kind of sulky when he came back and Marner wasn't on his wing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, very strange. They're
come
like,
on, dude. Pull your socks up.
His like dependency on him. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like you're the top. Really weird. I don't. Yeah, it's just I'm never going to apologize for just expecting more from the highest paid player in the NHL. I'm really not.
Ryan, let's talk about John Tavares. If you were going to sit down and if I was going to sit down at this point in the season and make a list of things that like have stood out to me so far, it's the play of John Tavares. You and I have been I think we got to eat a bit of crow here. You and I got to sit down here and eat a shit sandwich a bit here because we've sat here and we've called the guy washed. We've said he's done. We've said we wouldn't re-sign him in previous years. We wouldn't re-sign him heading into next year.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy has been fantastic. Like, he looks like this is the best he's played in like 3 years, in my opinion, in terms of like his impact on a shift-to-shift basis.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, he just looks... I don't even know what it is. Like, it's not like he's faster, or maybe he is. I don't know. I think his just like intensity has ramped up. His forechecking is a lot better. And when he's kind of doing that, he's kind of creating more opportunities for himself to score, and then he can prove what he's still elite at, which is
down low.
When that guy gets the goal he scored against the Caps on that breakaway from the pass from Tanev, like the guy still he's got elite hands. That can still put the puck in the net. So it's just if he's putting himself in opportunities to have those chances more often, then he's going to bury, and he's just going to look better, and he's going to make his line mates better. And I know for you, it's the captaincy thing. For me, I don't think that's a big deal. I think maybe some work he did in the offseason, or maybe the new coach just putting him into a new system.
Further to Rob being the president of the Craig Berube fan club, Bob McKenzie on the panel on Friday night in the Caps game made a great point about John Tavares, where he said, with Craig Berube, they're not as much of a off the rush hockey team as they were with Sheldon Keefe. They're a lot more like get it in and forecheck, and that has really lent itself nicely to Tavares. Like, he doesn't need to fly through the neutral zone anymore to be a part of the offense, because that's not really their game. Their game is get it in and forecheck hard, and he's benefited from that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just his stats prove it. The eye test proves it. And I mean, it wasn't that long ago where we were on here saying we wouldn't sign him at all, and he sucked.
Yeah, right.
And he's really just shoved it up our ass.
A lot. We've been on here a lot saying the guy's washed, and that we wouldn't give him a contract beyond this year. And now, again, it's still got to be at a reasonable number. Like, let's not jump the shark here. It's still got to be at a reasonable number.
Drager kind of had that one like radio hit he did where it's like he was hinting at a number under 5. That got me like kind of stoked. Like, that's exactly where it needs to be.
Exactly. But, and if they're going to play like this, if this is going to be the style of play that they're going to continue under Berube, you could see John having more of an impact being a third line centerman. Like those hands, we've talked about the foot speed and how it's always been a thing, but like his hands are still super elite, and he's a guy that if put in the right position, he can bury it. Like, he 100%. Can, if he gets a good look, 99% of the time he's burying it.
Yeah. And he's just like, I think the biggest difference too is he's just an offensive threat 5-on-5. And that's just, he wasn't that for the past season or two, even though his number, it's not like his numbers were awful, but it just seemed like his line some nights 5-on-5 weren't reliable to create offense and create chances. And now it's every single night. It's just when he's on the ice 5-on-5, he's dangerous. And I just think it makes a huge difference for them.
All right, buddy. We should a bit shorter than usual, but we shouldn't overstay our welcome today. I feel like we were reaching a bit today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what we talked about during this episode. Like, it really seems like any take that you are coming up with this team right now is a bit of a reach, and it's nitpicking. Like, Matthews and Marner together, yeah, they're really good. But like for us, we think there's a better version. And then for some other people, it's the depth scoring. And then for some other people, it's this or it's that. And just, but overall, they're way better defensively. They're not scoring as many goals, but I don't think that's an issue. I really don't. No. They've been decimated in their bottom six.
The goaltending's really good.
The goaltending's really good. Like if a head coach of another team is complimenting their defensive game over their offensive game, I think that's pretty much sums up what the job Craig Berube has done so far this season. Like, and Brad Treliving with his additions. Like it's really hard to sit here and come up with a lot of negatives. And I understand there's a lot of we'll see in April, but we got a lot of hockey before we get there. And it's just sitting here coming up with takes on this hockey team is tough because I just think they've been really good. Yeah. They've been a really good hockey team.
Yeah, they are. They're at the top of their division. And again, like we said earlier, like I'm not going to sit and freak out because they lost a couple games. Like I'm not going to sit here and be like,
it's the NHL. Like
it's panic time. Exactly.
Look at look at all the top teams' records around the league. It's all the exact same thing. I think the parity in this league is so it's insane. Anybody could lose to anybody on any night, and all the top teams kind of have the same record. So,
to your point, Ryan, don't look now, but if you look at the Atlantic Division standings,
it looks
the Panthers have 36
It always
points.
Looks.
The Leafs have 34, and look who's right behind, 1 point behind the Leafs with the new coach bump. I have said it 100 times, and I will say it again. I will never, ever, ever, ever pronounce that team dead. Ever. Do not sit here, because guess what? If the playoffs started tomorrow, guess who they'd be playing?
Yep.
The fucking Boston Bruins.
That's true.
So you're right. It's the NHL. You're not gonna. They went on an incredible run in November. They beat 2 bad teams this week. They just didn't have things go their way against a really good. The Washington Capitals are really surprising, man.
Yeah,
like they're no joke. They are no joke. They're very well coached. They play really hard. They just bounces just went their way, and they executed a really good game plan against the Leafs on Friday. And then I think Saturday night against Pittsburgh, they're just, again, I don't think they played terribly. It's just second night of a back-to-back with travel, not a ton of juice. And like you said, it's the NHL.
It is what it is. And I thought they've had chances to score in both those games, and they didn't do it, and the bounces didn't go their way, and it kind of is what it is. It is funny looking at the Atlantic standings, though, where it's just like, look at the top 4 teams, look at the bottom 4 teams.
I know. It's the same.
It's a joke.
Yeah, it's the same as always.
Yeah.
Same as always.
It really is.
All right, buddy. We got another busy week of hockey this week. They're in New Jersey on Tuesday, and then they're back home against the Anaheim Ducks. Oh, you made a funny. I want you to hit on this. You made a funny comment to me on Wednesday during the Preds game, where you were just like, you yourself have a difficult time settling in against some of these Western Conference teams.
Oh yeah, let's. I think it'd be shorter to go through the teams that I enjoy watching them play from the Western Conference. It's a very short list.
It is
Edmonton Oilers,
it's just,
the Calgary Flames, it's the Winnipeg Jets, the Vancouver Canucks, and it's maybe the Colorado Avalanche.
It's just hard. You're right, because it's like look at the Anaheim Ducks on Thursday. That team feels like they play in a different league. Like we never see them. We never hear about them. There's no sort of divisional impact. It's cool to see them, but in terms of like settling in and getting fired up to watch, like I was way more, the game this week that I had circled that I was really looking forward to watching was Friday night against Washington. Cause I was like, here's a top tier Eastern Conference team. Let's see what you got. And yeah, it is. It's tough. You don't watch as intensely against the Preds and the Ducks.
There's no juice, man. Like when I see them play, when I roll up on a Wednesday night and I see the St. Louis Blues or the fucking Utah Hockey Club or the Nashville Predators, like it's just, I do have a hard time psyching myself up. But when I see them, when I see on the sked that they're playing, I don't know, anyone in their division, or even just anyone in the Metro aside from the New York Islanders and the Blue Jackets, like then it just the juice is in it. But there's just something about some uniforms in the Western Conference that there's a brutal unis in the Western Conference. Like the Nashville Predators, have one of the worst uniforms in all pro sports, in my opinion.
Dude, that team is fucking hopeless, man. That team is like earlier this week, we saw two pretty bad hockey teams. Like
the two worst teams in the NHL.
Yeah, the Nashville Predators are holy shit, they're bad. Don't you dare say anything bad about the Anaheim Duck unis. I love those unis. I love that they're like an amalgamation of old school and new school. I love them.
I don't like them.
Well, as I said, busy week. If I look at the schedule, I think we'll be back on Friday because the Leafs play Tuesday, Thursday. So we'll probably be back during the day on Friday to just sort of talk about those games and tee up the weekend. They got another Sunday game. It's always so weird when the Leafs play on a Friday and a Sunday. It doesn't feel right. Like a Friday night, you're just like, oh shit, the Leafs are playing tonight. And then Sunday, like a week today, they're at home against Buffalo, a 5 p.m. start. I don't know what that's about. Maybe Buffalo. It's one of the maybe it's one of the maybe it's the next gen. That's why.
But did they get shit kicked every time they play fucking Buffalo? So
I know the Buffalo, like I don't care what the Buffalo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators do against everybody else. Every time they play the Leafs, they play their fucking hearts out. So
yeah, they did. They really do. They play them twice in a short span.
Yeah,
there's a couple good games coming up. You got the Devils. I'm down with that. You got the Red Wings division. The Stars are a good team. You got double Sabres games. You got the Jets. You got the Red Wings again. A lot of two Sabres, two Islanders, two Red Wings. A lot of double matchups coming up.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll be back on Friday to discuss further. If you still want to listen to us on Friday after listening to Ryan and I reach for about 30 minutes today.
Yeah, that was awful.
Hit the like and subscribe button below. If you're listening to the audio version, we got our Spotify wrap this week. Massive subscriber growth. Thank you so much. Randomly, our most listened to episode on Spotify in the last year was a training camp episode about Nick Robertson. That shocked me. I was like, really?
That's another name we didn't bring up today. But.
Well, it's because he didn't play.
Yeah, it sucks.
So if you want to join us, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm going to get out of here before Ryan and I drive this thing off the rails even further than we've already have.
Spread the word, tell your friends.
He's even late on that.
Yeah, brutal.
We'll see you on Friday.